Eraserhead is an abstract picture, and it can be interpreted in as many different ways as there are people that will look at it. And so because it's that way, it means something to me, but it's going to mean many things to other people. I just let them interpret it any way they want.
Scare Value Award winner David Lynch.
Push the applause button.
I don't have an applause button.
I saw her in the hallway.
That's the button I got. I also have this button.
You don't know what death is.
Those are two good buttons.
And I have the button I played that David Lynch one on, and I have a button for another movie we talked about today.
Okay. So, David Lynch. I've only ever seen Twin Peaks, the first season.
In 30 Seconds of Mulholland Drive.
30 Seconds of Mulholland Drive.
Which aired at the theater you worked at.
Yes.
And you knew when to go up and check the reels, quote unquote.
That's right. It was a good 30 seconds.
Yeah.
And I think I might have seen parts of Firewalk with Me, but I hadn't seen Twin Peaks yet. So it was wildly impenetrable. Impossible. It was confusing. So confusing.
It's not like it's less confusing when you understand what's happening.
No. And if Eraserhead is any example of
it's
that,
not.
Okay, because this one is a movie.
Yeah, it's not. This is the most extreme version of that.
Okay.
Now, this is David Lynch month. All of April, we're going to cover David Lynch movies. And as Pete just told you, there are going to be a lot of first-time watches for him.
They're all going to be first-time watches.
That's correct. They will not be for me. We're covering Eraserhead today. We're covering Blue Velvet next week. We're going to do a watch-along for Twin Peaks Fire Walk with Me the week after. The week after that will be Lost Highway. And we'll wrap it up with Mulholland Drive.
I'm all ready for that one. At least 30 seconds.
And I wanted to do this, obviously, because David Lynch passed away in January. I wish we could have done it earlier, but got to get UHF watch-alongs in. What do you want from me? Return to Oz must be talked about. Those 7 minutes of the accountant aren't going to watch themselves. No. Important business. Now, what's your history with David Lynch? Like, where did you even learn? Because you haven't watched the movies, but you know what David Lynch is.
That is a good question. How did I learn about David Lynch?
He was such a piece of pop culture that you just understood, kind of like The Simpsons would make a joke where he'd watch Twin Peaks and it'd be a horse dancing with a cop under a streetlight, and then he'd go, brilliant. And that's like the joke. And it's like, no, that's great.
No, it's entirely possible that my knowledge of David Lynch comes from pop culture references. And then
people calling movies Lynchian.
When Twin Peaks originally aired, it was talked about all over the place in media. Like, it was just such a cultural thing. And then
we were only 12 when that came out.
And I saw parts of it when it was on.
Yeah.
And it was weird. And it stuck with me that I dug it. I'm like, I like this kind of weird stuff. So when I did end up seeing Twin Peaks later in college, I kind of understood the vibe, but I liked it.
That's the most mainstream of anything that he did.
And that's nothing like Eraserhead.
Nothing like Eraserhead. Okay. Also, like, I don't think he'd made anything that was ever like Eraserhead again, to be honest.
Well, that 30 Seconds of Mulholland Drive is nothing like Eraserhead.
No. There are aspects of Twin Peaks The Return that definitely have callbacks to visual stylings of Eraserhead. Very specific ones early in the series, too. Now, I don't remember when I found David Lynch. I think the first thing I ever saw of his was Fire Walk with Me. I think I rented it from Blockbuster because it had a pretty girl on the cover. And you know me, looking for them boobies. Found him in that movie.
Or are they only dead boobies?
No, it's a prequel. Everybody loves a prequel, except for Fire Walk with Me, which took them 25 years to like. We'll get to that when we talk about Fire Walk with Me. But I think this is the first thing I ever saw. So when I watched Twin Peaks later, I already knew who the killer was because it is a major plot point of Fire Walk with Me. And that movie fucked me up because outside of all of the weirdness and convenience stores and goblins and shit from other realms and men in rings and men from other places and weird backwards talks and red rooms, all that shit being thrown at you with no understanding of the TV show. Take all that aside, it is the most harrowing horror movie about sexual abuse at home that anyone has ever made. That's what really underpins the movie. So it was a very difficult watch where I understood none of it, but it never left my mind. I never forgot about it. And then I did see Twin Peaks later, revisited Fire Walk with Me after I'd have a better understanding. Didn't understand it any better, honestly, but fell in love with Twin Peaks. And I don't remember really even when I even started watching his movies. Mulholland Drive was probably the next one for me.
And that was 90 or
2001.
Yeah.
And it makes no sense. And I wasn't vibing yet on any of the dream logic that he uses in his movies. I wasn't in a place where I was thinking like that.
What does the dream logic mean? I don't understand.
Well, Mulholland Drive specifically, maybe none of that movie takes place in reality. It might all just be non sequitur dreams running into each other as characters kind of change and situations change. And finding meaning in it is basically a fool's errand. But it's going to mean something to you, which is why it's so brilliant.
Is that Lynch's style then, that he always just has this almost dreamlike quality to? Because I could say that about Twin Peaks.
The movies I picked, the 5 movies I picked are more like that. Blue Velvet less than the others. Blue Velvet is about the picturesque town and the darkness underneath it. That was his comment on small town America, really. And the other 4 movies are really nightmares. That's really what they are.
Because I can get that. I can follow the logic for dreams intersecting or melding into new dreams while you're still asleep sort of thing, and I can follow that.
What makes his movies so fascinating to me is that they all make sense in the moment I'm watching them, and then they end and I go, what the fuck was that about? Which is what a dream is. That's why I think he accomplishes it better than anybody. I'm never confused in the moment, but I'm confused about what the point is when it's over. And that's exactly how you describe a dream.
Right. That makes sense.
Yeah. And I think that Mulholland Drive might be his masterpiece of accomplishing that, but that one's weeks away. Blue Velvet's less of the dreams. I picked it because it's an excellent movie, but I also wanted to make a point about Lynch's career.
Okay.
Eraserhead was his first movie. Came out in 1977 or 78, depending on festivals and stuff like that. I actually know some stories about trying to get into festivals, which is pretty funny. It was not a movie.
Save
people
it
wanted.
for the podcast.
This is the podcast.
Oh,
this is the Eraserhead podcast. So he starts making these movies in the 70s. This movie took 5 years to make. We'll get to that too. I think for every decade that he was active, in the 2020s, all he really made, he did a lot of painting and he did a lot of he did some short films. But for when he actually sat down in the decade, made a film or a TV series, I think he made each decade, the 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, 2010s, there's something with his name on it that might be arguably the best or most important thing of that decade, which sounds insane. But 70s, Eraserhead, Midnight Movies it launches an entire brand of films called Lynchian. People make weird things and they just are like, oh, it's got that dream-like Lynchian thing. It establishes him. Now, it's my least favorite of the 5 movies. It's the simplest of the 5 movies in a lot of ways. It was just they had no money. He did what he could. But he got it on screen and he made his presence known. In the 80s, he makes Blue Velvet, which, again, is less dreamlike. It has those qualities to it, obviously, because you can't not. But it's the independent version of, like, maybe the most important or biggest independent movie of the 80s. And how many movies are influenced by it? Innumerable. Is that a word?
yeah.
The 90s, he makes Twin Peaks. Revolutionizes television. 2001, he makes Mulholland Drive, which many people argue is the best movie of the 21st century. It's that beloved and that highly thought of. That and No Country for Old Men are the 2 I see the most on tops of the list.
Really?
Yes.
Okay. The Coen Brothers?
Yes, it's a masterpiece. And did you ever see that?
Yeah, I watched
I
it.
love No Country for Old Men. It's a masterpiece.
So slow.
It is, but I don't know. It's just like a perfect movie to me. And in the 2010s, he makes Twin Peaks: The Return, which is 7 years old now, and I still argue is ahead of its time. It's turning 8 soon, and I still argue it's ahead. You haven't seen it yet. I think it's the boldest, most interesting thing anyone has made in the 21st century. I think it's incredible.
After we do Fire Walk with Me, that might be
Yeah.
the inspiration to make me jump into it.
It's a good jumping in place. You don't really need the original series as much as you need Fire Walk with Me, which is why Fire Walk with Me kind of started getting reevaluated. After watching it the second time, thought, I think that's my favorite Lynch movie, which is, at the time I thought that, a controversial thing to say. But in the years right before The Return came out, people started to look back at it and go, there's something really great here. Maybe this is actually really great. Started growing in people's minds. Then The Return comes out, and Fire Walk With Me becomes such an important piece of what he's doing in The Return that I think it's kind of earned a place now as like, oh, we were all wrong about this movie. This movie's brilliant. And I always thought it was brilliant, even when I didn't understand one word of it. So I don't know how many, we talk about how Steven Spielberg got old, and then we didn't like his movies anymore. He stopped making fun movies.
Right. Because he's old. And he did, but I see where you're going, and
Yeah.
it's Lynch didn't.
I
Lynch
think
kept it
Twin
up.
Peaks: The Return is the best thing he ever made, and that's ridiculous, honestly, in a way. But I'm not the only one that thinks that. Sight and Sound, a UK magazine that covers films, named it their #1 movie of the year. It's not even a movie. They were like, but it's one script, and nothing's this good. Jim Jarmusch was quoted as saying it's the best thing anybody's made in 20 years, and I kind of agree. And this is the Johnny Cash thing to me. To me, he's the filmmaking Johnny Cash. The guy who did it his own way and stayed relevant until the time of his death, which is something the Beatles didn't do and Elvis didn't do and people don't do. But for your last work to maybe be your best work, that's unheard of to me. But look at American Recordings. It does happen to a rare, special kind of artist.
It worked for Johnny Cash, you're right. He was huge in the 90s. In fact, I think Kitty and I's first dance was his American recording version of Delia's Gone at our wedding.
That's right.
That's how big he was.
Yep. Well, yeah, Hurt was his biggest thing.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
And he died not long after Hurt.
That was sad.
Yeah.
That was sad. And he was forgotten because the other John died like the
John
next
Ritter.
day. Yeah. And I'm not taking away from John Ritter, but
It seems like every time you bring this up, you are specifically doing it to take away from John Ritter.
guess I kind of am. Just like I'm the jerk at the Rocky Horror Picture Show. I'm always the bad guy.
Yeah, you're finally starting to see it. When I defend the Stathuses of the world, I'm trying to show you
See?
that I'm on your side.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
Yeah. So this was your first time watching Eraserhead. This was my second time watching Eraserhead. It's a movie that I saw probably in the mid-2000s when I was on a let's see all this guy's work.
Kick.
And this is the one that I was like, okay, I'm going to put it over here now and I'm going to leave it there forever because I get it enough. I didn't enjoy it the way that I enjoy his other movies, but it's an important movie. And I watched it the second time, and my opinion did not change one tiny bit.
All right. So I watched this movie.
Yes.
And from what I gather, and correct me if I'm wrong,
I probably won't be able to.
okay, so this movie starts with like a giant sperm or something flying around, and then there's a guy who is like part monster. He's got crystals growing out of him and stuff, and he's working some giant levers in a machine or inside a planet or something. Yes. Then we meet a guy, a sad, lonely, poor guy who lives in like Poorville, and then he stares at his radiator a lot, and I believe, and I'll explain my reasons later, that he jerks off into that radiator a lot. Like he has fantasies
Well,
about
is
it.
it because the girl in the radiator is stepping on his sperm?
Yeah. Okay, so that's not just me. Right. So he jerks off in that radiator a lot. But he's also got a girlfriend, and he goes to dinner, or an ex-girlfriend or something, but he's sad. And he goes to her house for dinner, and it's kind of weird, and her parents are weird, like weirder than normal parents, just weird. And then the mother starts asking him, like, did you sleep with my daughter? And
She hits on him, too.
oh, yeah, that's right. She hits on him first. But then, or after, either way, he's like, yeah. And she's like, well, she's got a baby now, and it was premature. And
And then she says, we don't even know that it's a baby. And I'm like, okay, this is the moment where I'm kind of in the most on the movie.
right. And the baby's a giant sperm. The baby's a giant sperm head wrapped up in like a big little swaddle.
He's kind of cute, though.
Yeah, it was
Without the
creepy
sores.
weird. Yeah, but anyway. Oh, yeah, the baby gets sick at some point. The sperm baby gets sick.
It's like this movie has so little dialogue that the two most memorable things are the lady in the radiator singing,
I'm not even to her yet. Yeah.
and when he looks at the baby and goes, "Oh, you are sick," and I'm like, that line for whatever reason has been stuck in my head since I first saw the movie because I feel like it's the only thing he says. I know it's not true, but he says it so clearly and distinctly, and like I'm so confused by what this moment means.
yes.
Go ahead.
But he's home. He's home now.
Can I just say it's funny to me that I ask you to do recaps of movies all the time and you can't do them. And then one of the most impenetrable movies of all time, there's the word, you're like, let me break it down scene by scene. Please go.
Right, because I got it. Like, I just want to make sure. So now he has to go home with his sperm baby, and the girl comes and lives with him. But this is where he starts dreaming, I believe, about the lady in the radiator who comes out, see what I did there? And does a little dance, but sperm start falling on her. So that's where I think the jerking off comes in, and she dances on him. And then the wife leaves, or his girlfriend. I think they got whatever. She's gone because she can't handle it. Weird sperm baby.
She needs a break.
She goes home. So now he's left there with this sperm baby, and it gets sick, and he's got to take care of it. But it's disgusting. But it's always disgusting. But now it's like a infected STD sperm baby, and the It Follows monster is probably going to be there soon. But then, what next? Oh, the lady. I don't know how he gets to thinking, but somehow he gets the idea in his head that he's got to kill the sperm baby. Maybe it was from the lady dancing.
That's not what he thinks.
What is he thinking? Well, so then he kills the sperm baby.
Well, okay.
He kills it, and then it turns
accidentally.
giant. I don't think he accidentally did it. It turns giant. I think it kills him. He ends up with, the lady in the radiator is a chipmunk lady. Like, she's got giant chipmunk cheeks for no reason, and it's not explained, but they're there. So then he ends up in the radiator with the chipmunk lady, and she hugs him, and then the guy in the machine demon, he tries pulling the levers, and the planet explodes.
Yep.
And I think that's how it ends.
It's a happy ending. The baby, whatever it is swaddled the whole time.
Sperm baby.
It's swaddled the whole time. And he unwraps it, and finds out it has no body. It's been holding it together the whole time.
Yes.
He doesn't kill it on purpose.
No, he stabs the lungs. He takes his little...
After it's already... He starts poking at it because everything's exposed. It's dead.
It's not dead.
Well,
because
its outsides are... and insides are on the outside now. There's no outside casing to hold it, so it's...
You just close that back up. That's what I would have done. You fold it back up, and then you tape it shut. Slap some duct tape on it. Call it a day. Clearly, this weird fucking sperm baby doesn't really need its guts in any particular order.
Now, I don't have children, but I imagine this is exactly what it's like the first few days, at least, of having that kid here and having to change diapers. Be like, is everything going to be okay here? Am I going to break this fragile thing?
Yeah, but it's not a weird monster sperm baby, and I'm not jerking off in a radiator all the time. I mean, I'm not a man to turn down a heater.
Well,
vent.
not all the time.
Right, not all the time. But not a radiator. And not all the time.
What if there was a lady in there?
Yeah, maybe. That's kind of cool. But that seems kind of mean. It's just like, hello, ooh, hey down there.
She seemed to enjoy it.
She was stepping on them all.
Yeah.
Did she have an umbrella?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I think she caught him in her chipmunk.
And then when she stepped on it, that's what made him decide to kill the sperm baby.
She wasn't trying to kill this.
Oh, yeah? What do you think? Well, what do you think this movie... You tell me the synopsis of this movie.
I think it's a movie about a man, made by a man who had recently had a child who was trying to express how terrifying that all was. That he felt inadequate. He felt unprepared. He felt terrified of destroying it, again, unintentionally. And in a weird way, I think that radiator and the lady in it, it represents to, I guess, Lynch, but to what's the guy's name? I can't remember Jack Nance's name in this movie.
Eraserhead?
Yeah, Eraserhead.
That's
Which
his
we
name.
do find out why he's called that, because his head gets turned into erasers after it falls off.
Is that what that was?
That is what that was.
No, it's because his hair makes his head look like an eraser.
I agree.
I've looked at that cover for years and
I agree.
decades.
But his head is actually, when his head comes off.
Because a giant sperm baby knocked it off.
Yeah. Well, the lady in the radiator, I think, is like what he wants.
No, they're called...
It's the brightness in his life. He's imagining something better. It just happens to be in the radiator.
I thought it was one of those borrowers. Borrowers. You know, the little people who live in your walls? Mm-hmm. That's what I thought it was. Perhaps one of the Alvin and the Chipmunks, though, as well.
Yes. One of the Alvin
The
and the
Chipettes.
Chipmunks. Oh, yeah. Is that what they're called?
I believe so. There was a sequel to the...
Oh, they came back for the new ones? Because I remember they were in the animated movie in the 80s.
Yeah. Yep, they were, but they came back in the franchise or the universe of the...
Oh.
There's a bunch of movies. They get chipwrecked at some point.
Oh, wow. I think David Cross loved that one.
He must have.
No, I think there's a story about how he had a contract, so he had to come back, and he had to lose out on something he really wanted to do because of it. Maybe it's that TV show he was making
I don't even remember.
Todd Margaret, maybe.
Oh, okay.
And he had to cancel the show because he had to go do the movie.
Oh.
And then they made him stand in like a penguin costume for a week. It didn't have to be him. And he was just so miserable and hated everybody. Something like that.
Yeah, so that was Chipwrecked. And those are the three that I know about. There were probably more. And Dave kept changing. It was always a different actor.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Was it Justin Long ones?
I think it was. It was Jason Lee. I think Zachary Levy at one point made an appearance.
I hope he goes last because
Isn't he a whack job now?
of course he's a whack job.
Motherfucker.
All these guys whose careers end, they're just like, they turn into whack jobs and blame it on being a whack job. And it's like, or no, they blame it on other people being whack. It's like, no, you're the whack job. I'm not working with you, Randy Quaid.
And apparently Dennis.
Yeah, but he kind of redeemed himself a bit in my eyes.
Oh, from the substance?
Yeah.
You give him a pass for being a dick?
Because-
Not even worse than a dick.
Because he understands that he is.
And he's making money off of it. That's somehow worse.
I don't think it's worse. I think not having not realizing it is worse. Thinking that you're the good guy. He knows he's not the good guy. Anyway, the other movies aren't going to be this abstract.
I thought it made perfect sense.
You didn't think it made perfect sense.
Yeah, that he killed his sperm
He didn't.
baby.
Okay, I guess if you're using the word one way, yes, but he didn't intentionally do it.
When he took the scissors and stabbed its lungs?
He'd already unswaddled the child.
Close it back up. So David Lynch had a kid like before when he made this movie?
Yes,
So it's kind of like his projection of his fears, like you're saying.
I believe that's right.
Did he stab his baby in the lungs?
I think she's fine.
Okay, then I don't. I guess it wasn't true to life.
No, he didn't. His head didn't get turned into erasers either.
Well, the giant sperm turned it, knocked it off, and it became a.
He did have a short video of masturbating into a radiator, but I think that's neither here nor there.
He did?
No.
Oh, okay.
It's believable, though, isn't it?
100%. I 100,000% believe that was out there and David Lynch made it. And it was just something, or it was a
You know what?
scene
If
in a
David
different
Lynch
movie.
made it, I'd watch it.
I think that was probably on the extended cuts, but they didn't have extended scenes back in the day. There probably is one of Eraserhead and Eraserhead jerking off into the radiator.
No, the making of this movie was tremendously difficult.
What was the problem with it?
He had no money, and it took 5 years to shoot
Holy shit.
because he said, I would shoot something, run out of money, I'd go get a job doing something, take that money, call everybody back and be like, we can shoot a little bit more, and I would just keep going like that. One of the actors in this movie, not Jack Nance, who's the star of the movie, who was
Eraserhead.
he's in a lot of David Lynch stuff, including Twin Peaks. He's the one who finds Laura Palmer and says the great line, "She's dead, wrapped in plastic."
It's been so long I don't remember.
He also has the great line, "There was a fish in the percolator." Jack Nance, also in Meatballs 4.
I saw her in the hallway.
You want to hear a fucked up Jack Nance story?
Yes, more than anything.
Jack Nance was married to the daughter of Jerry Van Dyke,
From the
Coach.
yes, okay.
Dick Van Dyke's brother. So he's married to Dick Van Dyke's niece, who was a drunk and a depressed person, and while he was shooting Meatballs 4, called and said, "I'm going to kill myself." And he was talking her through it, and then the power went out,
Oh no.
and she killed herself because he thought she hung up on him. Here's your Jack Nance story.
All right, I'm done now. I can't come back from that. That's horrible.
Hey,
What?
Corey Feldman was in Meatballs 4.
I do love Corey Feldman.
I
I saw him in The Burbs.
I just happen to know that Jack Nance story, so I felt like I had to tell you.
I feel really bad for Jack Vance right now.
Yeah, he died not that long after that. So good for him. No, he died a little after that. He was in all the way up through Lost Highway. I think he died in 95 then. Because I think he was in Lost Highway 2 years later, but he shot his scenes before then.
Was Lost Highway the one with Bill Pullman?
Yes, we're going to do that one.
Okay, cool.
And again, those movies are characters with shifting things and switching roles almost, and narratively structured in ways that are unique. But they're not like this where it's all surreal.
The demon guy with the ice who lived inside the planet, that I think was an egg because the giant sperm was looking
I
for
think
the
he's
egg.
just working the machine.
Yeah, but it blows up at the end. He's fighting the machine because it's not working.
He's raging against the machine.
He's raging, but he's actually a goddamn gear. He's a cog in the machine because he's trying to save it, and it blows up. And that happens right after he stabs his baby in the lungs. instead of duct taping it and saving its life because he was tired of taking care of this stupid sperm baby that was clearly a monster. And he was right to do it because it became giant and turned his head into an eraser. Although it was probably because that was the easiest thing to turn into because it was so close to looking like an eraser anyway. It didn't require much magical sperm power.
What do you think his daughter thought of this movie?
Whose daughter?
Jennifer Lynch, who's a director in her own right. She also wrote the companion journal for Twin Peaks, Laura Palmer's Secret Diary, which becomes part of the show. She actually wrote that. But if your dad made a movie and it was playing at midnight movie theaters, and then you went and watched it one day and said, I want to see what my dad made. It is his fear and, I guess in your eyes, hatred of his child.
Well, I don't know. What does she look like?
Oh, she looks like a semen monster.
But that's what I was looking like. Well, maybe he was right. She should know that is not a good look to have.
She played the role.
Oh boy, I'm just saying.
5 years to make. One of the actors in this movie is Sissy Spacek's husband.
Oh.
And she hadn't made Carrie yet when they started shooting this, so her breakout was coming. But he was kicking as much money as he could as they were getting jobs. Like everyone's trying to get this movie made. So Sissy Spacek later does appear, gets to work with David Lynch. They were friends forever, obviously, because like Jack something was her husband's name. He was in this movie. They were friends forever. So he knows Sissy Spacek forever. She was in The Straight Story. I believe. That's his most straightforward movie. It's a real life story of a man who finds out that his brother's dying, but he can't drive because he's legally blind. So he rides a tractor across the country to see him.
Holy shit!
Harry Dean Stanton and Richard Farnsworth.
That played at the Dipson Theater.
Yes.
Okay.
Richard Farnsworth blew his brains out not long after that movie. Got nominated for an Oscar though.
I guess it was worth it.
That's the movie that people look at Lynch's filmography and go, "What a weird thing." Isn't that funny? The G-rated Disney movie about an old man going to see his long-lost brother before he dies. That's the weird movie. And he talked about, he's like, it's my most experimental movie because I didn't know any of this worked.
I can't keep a story going straight through with the same characters and the same faces. How boring.
It's a perfect thing, though, because the actual character's name was something straight. And it's called The Straight Story. But it's also the only thing Lynch ever made that was just a straightforward narrative story. The whole thing it's a perfect thing to me. Lynch, I've talked before about how there's videos of watching Lynch work and the way that he films things. And
I don't remember, though. So tell me again.
Part of the reason I think this took 5 years, not just because of money. That's obviously a lot of it. He likes to build a space, walk into the space, and then he has a script, but then he's like, we're going to figure it out. We can dream up new things in the space. I'm guessing these shoots took forever. Because he's like, I've got this apartment. Let's go in there and figure out all kinds of weird shit we can do that feels right to me. That's how he wants to shoot.
Right. You come in with no plan and let the space speak to you.
There's great stuff with him shooting Twin Peaks The Return, where a producer's trying to explain to him, we only have this set for 2 days, or we only have this actress for a day. And he's just like, what the fuck is the point of making anything? Like, we only had a week in the fireman's cabin. Like, I could have dreamed up so much amazing stuff in that cabin. It's like, he wasn't meant to be a filmmaker. I mean, he is obviously meant to be a filmmaker, but he couldn't stand the constraints of filmmaking. Eraserhead gets him Elephant Man, which is also a very straightforward story. It's like the Straight Story is, but it's got enough weird Lynchian stuff in there.
Is this a continuation of his ugly child, but now it's grown up?
Well, it's her husband, the Elephant Man. Who else could the semen
baby?
Elephant Man's brilliant. It's a brilliant movie. Nominated for 8 Oscars.
Oh, the movie was brilliant, not the Elephant Man.
I never met him.
I didn't either. I was curious.
I was hoping he would turn out to be Jack the Ripper. It did not turn out to be him.
I didn't even know that was a possibility.
Well, he was in there at the same time. They were in Victorian London at the same time.
Well, I guess he could have been, though. Ooh.
He's on my list. He gets Elephant Man. Mel Brooks sees Eraserhead and says, this is the guy. I wanted to make Elephant Man. And everyone was like, are you out of your fucking mind? And he's like, I'm telling you, the guy's got something. He's 100% right. And Elephant Man's brilliant. It's beautiful. It's genius. And I've mentioned this before. Anthony Hopkins is the star of Elephant Man with John Hurt. And Anthony Hopkins tried to get him fired because he's like, I don't like any of the way that he does this, because he wants to go in and just think of new things to do. And he's like, that's not what we do here. We're making a movie. We're on a budget. And Mel Brooks backed him and said, I think No, he's
And this wasn't a producer situation.
Mel Brooks was a producer.
Well, I mean, the producers, where he's trying to make Springtime for Hitler, and he's like, there's something about this guy.
I'll tell you what, it could have been.
This David Lynch.
When you watch Eraserhead, it definitely could have been. But it's such a weird always thing to me that Mel Brooks watched Eraserhead and said, I wanted to make a straightforward narrative picture. But he was right. It is a great, great movie. We're not going to cover it because it's too normal, honestly. The Elephant Man gets nominated for 8 Oscars. He did get an honorary Oscar before he died. Gave a 2-word thank you speech. As he
Good.
would.
I appreciate that.
But it's the Irving
What were the
Thalberg
2
award.
words?
I think maybe he said more than 2, but it was like I think it was just thank you. But then he looked at it and said, "You have a beautiful face." And then he walked out because he's David Lynch. He's weird. But Kyle MacLachlan and Laura Dern presented it, and they both give long speeches. It's like it's not at the actual Oscars. It was like the dinner beforehand, so you have time, and they give this long, like 5 minutes each, just talking up David Lynch, showing those long clips, and he gets up there, and people expect like this long speech. He goes, "You have a beautiful face. Thank you." And he walked out, and it's like, and Kyle MacLachlan's like dying back. They're like, it's hilarious. So, Elephant Man gets him Dune. Dune is where he learns I love Dune.
This is the one from that the studio just got their hands all over it.
He
and
didn't
kind
have
of,
Final Cut. Now,
Okay.
he didn't think about this because he didn't technically have Final Cut in Elephant Man either, I don't think, but Mel Brooks backed him at every turn. So he didn't need it because Mel Brooks gave it to him. Dune, he didn't have Final Cut. I've heard people talk about Dune with him, and he says it's the great, failure of his career or whatever, and because he didn't have Final Cut. He's like, but it's also the best thing that happened because I never let that happen again. And nobody was ever going to give me notes and tell me that this is how it had to be. But he did say he likes parts of Dune because I like Dune. It's weird as shit.
Well, you know what? I take it back. That was the first David Lynch movie I ever saw. I've only seen Dune. Well, now
I
I've
might
seen
have seen that one
Eraserhead.
beforehand too. Now that I think
Because
about it.
I saw that, and I remember not understanding a goddamn thing,
Yeah.
and that made me go read the book.
Yeah.
And then I watched, and this was when I was young, and then I watched it again, and I'm like, I still don't understand it, but that's what I thought a Lynch movie was, just sort of a weird,
Yeah.
not explained pile of things.
What I love about Dune is that unlike all the other movies where he puts all of his weirdest shit on screen, it's the only one that is based on somebody else's work. So it has to fit into a narrative that somebody else has already outlined. And he's just like, how do I make it weird? Unlike the other movies, which is just like, here's why I want to express the story. So now he's expressing someone else's story. That's why it was never going to be a perfect fit. But his choices, and I'm sorry, are more interesting than the modern Dune choices. They just are. Because if I can have half-naked Sting running around and giant fish creature monsters, that's what I want to see.
Yeah. They went backwards. In the new ones, it should have been a wholly naked Sting.
Yes, a
and,
modern naked Sting.
and not fish monsters, but fish stick monsters.
Well-
With little arms and legs.
He gets to, then he makes Blue Velvet and his career kind of changes. Because he's like, I'm only making what I want now. The movies don't come out that often. He only became a filmmaker. He was a painter. And he was painting some trees. And the wind started blowing outside. And he said, I felt like I could see the trees moving in the picture. And I thought, I want to make moving pictures. Moving paintings, which is what he tried to make his whole career. And I think succeeded at several times. Failed at, too. Dune is a failure. I love it, but it's a failure. And I think that Wild at Heart is it's a weird in a different way. That's why we're not covering it.
Okay.
It's sometimes his stuff doesn't fit the material he's working on, and sometimes it does. Twin Peaks does. Blue Velvet does. Return does.
I thought Wild at Heart was a well-received movie.
Sometimes it's you know what, it's Nick Cage and Willem Dafoe and Laura Dern, and there's a bottom to how bad it can be, but he's a little too obsessed with the Wizard of Oz in that one, and it doesn't. Not everything he tries to do fits,
Okay.
and sometimes I think a Nick Cage in a David Lynch is a hat on a hat of weirdness, and Willem Dafoe.
That's a lot of weird in one place. You would think that it would go together well. Like these people should be working together.
At times it does go together well, which is why even Lynch's bad movies, which I don't think there's a bad movie, even his less well received movie, it wasn't even not well received. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
No matter what movie it is, there's always something in it that is so interesting that you're going to remember it. You're going to take it with you, and it might be worth the entire process of doing.
Well, again, he saturated the pop culture market so strongly that I know what he is,
Yeah.
having only seen Dune.
Which is amazing because whenever you listen to him or hear him talk about anything or even watch his movies, got to be the last thing he wanted. who he could not have cared less.
He didn't make many movies, right? It was every like one a decade almost.
Well, no, but
No?
I mean, it was
Couple?
Eraserhead, followed by Elephant Man, followed by Killer Elephant Man, followed by Dune, followed by Blue Velvet. So we're up to 86. So he's made about 4 movies in 10 years. And then it slows down considerably.
Okay.
Because then he goes and does Twin Peaks,
Oh, that's right. He jumped to TV.
and he does Wild at Heart right when he's doing the TV, and then he makes Fire Walk with Me, and then he makes.
All right, no, so he was chugging along
So we're up
the
to
whole
90,
time.
94, and he's made pretty good amount. But then Lost Highway in 97, Mulholland Drive in 2001, and then I don't think he makes anything else until Inland Empire.
I don't even know what that one is.
It's a movie I've never seen. It's like 3 hours long, and it's like Laura Dern in an apartment with rabbits or something. It's rabbit people.
I'm intrigued.
I am too, but I've heard that it's
The 3 hours is a little daunting. I liked Eraserhead at its tight 90 or less. I can't remember, but it was right there.
and then he makes The Return. And Twin Peaks: The Return is this thing that now that he's passed away, I thought it was a gift to begin with that it happened because it came out of absolutely nowhere. Literally just a guy that worked at Showtime and said, "Fuck it, will you take my money to do it? I don't care if it succeeds." And that's just the true passion for the art that he was making. And it's
A real
unbelievable.
Mel Brooks kind of guy.
It's unbelievable we got it. It's unbelievable we got it. And now that it's the last thing, the major thing that his major work, it's unbelievable that exists. And yeah, he was just as interested. This is the thing, Ben Grimm. He was just as interested in doing a painting as he was making a movie. There was no difference to him. So if he just wanted to paint for 4 years, you weren't getting any movies.
Okay. I'm thinking a thought here. So Eraserhead was his first one.
Yes.
So
He'd made a couple short films
okay, yeah, that's where I was going.
before. And
Were they all weird too?
Of course.
Okay.
And
And then he cobbled this together.
I have seen a couple of them.
And he
but it's
took
been a
it to, like, what did he go to festival? And I was going to ask what midnight shows are, because I don't know what, or midnight.
This is a thing when theaters. Well, you do know because you ran them, and when they didn't have enough people, you kick them out.
The Rocky Horror Picture Show. It's one of those type of things.
And it was one of the movies that became one of the most popular ones in the '80s. So it just stayed in theaters for a long time.
Okay.
In the early '80s, so he did make the movie, had it in reels because that's how it was back then. Had to put them in a shopping cart to move them around as he took them by hand to film festivals. And got rejected from Cannes, got rejected from like everywhere. And then he said there was like a festival that was like a lower end festival. I can't remember what one it was. And he said his wife at the time told him, just take it to the festival. Like, what's the worst that's going to happen? He's like, I'm tired of dealing with all this. He's tired with everything. He hates releasing movies almost. He's like making them. And he takes it and he goes, I'm David Lynch. This is Eraserhead. It's been thrown out of it's been turned down from every festival in the world. And I'm sure you're going to turn it down too. He's like, then I got a call. I'm like, we'll take it. And that's kind of how it started. It was just that it almost never got seen by anybody.
And it's weird enough that is almost the dictionary picture of what a weird indie art house festival film is.
It is, and one of the things you're going to find watching through these 5 movies in a row is that you might have seen things. Did you see the TV show Legion with Dan Stevens?
You know where it is?
No, it's on your list.
It's on my list.
The first season of that show is really good. It's got a lot of Lynchian ideas to it, but they're really interesting. Then The Return came out. And season 2 and 3 of Legion are almost unwatchable because the master came back, showed them how it's done, and they're like, I don't know how to copy this yet. And so when you go through these movies, you'll see a lot of things that are like, okay, I see the influence in other things. But you'll never find anything as unarrogantly itself than a David Lynch movie. This movie makes as much sense as you want it to make because it can be about anything you want it to be about. He doesn't care. And it's the least pompous version of the artist arting that I've ever seen anybody do.
What do you mean?
You know how artists are. You see them, they make their movies.
Yeah, I know how they are.
Yeah, they're terrible. But they make their shit and they're like, they're uppity about it. Is that the word I want?
They're proud of what they've created.
They think that you don't get it. That's a thing that goes with these people that make David Lynch style movies. David Lynch doesn't think that. He thinks whatever you got out of it, you got it exactly right. Because I made what I thought. You just heard the opening clip. That's what I think of it, but it's going to be interpreted however anybody wants it. And that's why people are like, well, he never explains his work. Because why would he? And that's not what you get from people that make Lynch-like movies. Just Lynch. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense.
Like, you and I will watch Lost Highway, which is probably his most incomprehensible movie, to be honest, even though so much of it seems so straightforward. And we might have two wildly different opinions on the movie. And if he was here, I'd say, oh my God, it's a ghost. And he would say, whatever you thought, you're both right. And then he'd walk away and probably grab a Woody Woodpecker.
I'd eat him.
Woody Woodpecker. You know the story about the Woody Woodpecker animals?
David
stuffed
Lynch
animals?
and Woody Woodpecker? No, this sounds like the setup to a joke, and I'm really, really waiting on the punchline.
So this guy is the best. He had a video that I think was about Eraserhead. This was the early 80s, maybe, late 70s, early 80s, where he's thanking one of the midnight screening people that kept it on for so long. And he's sitting next to 5 giant Woody Woodpecker stuffed animals. And he'd given an interview about these stuffed animals. He named them all, too. He'd given an interview about these stuffed animals.
Something other than Woody?
Yeah.
Ooh.
And he said that he was driving away from like a gas station convenience store, and he saw these things all in the window like they were trapped in there, and I had to come get them and free them. So he spent a lot of time with them in his office. But then if you keep reading the interview, it goes, later, there were some disagreements. They are no longer a part of my life. Just, that's matter-of-factly said.
There's no follow-up?
No. What do you ask?
Yes, you say what?
No,
What?
you just
Explain
go,
yourself.
You back away slowly. Yeah. But I don't think that whenever I see somebody make something that they think is this style of movie, surrealist movies, they're really obsessed with you knowing it's brilliant. He couldn't give a shit.
This before or after? Because I feel like this kind
You have to
of...
give me a thing.
Before or after Eraserhead and Lynch, became, I guess, public.
Well, everything's after.
Everything is after.
But his opinion on his movies was always there in the beginning, because there's interviews of him on the set of Eraserhead, like when it's opening, showing his locations, and his like that clip I played comes from before anybody saw Eraserhead, where he's like, people will see what they see. I don't care.
No, I'm digging what you're saying. I get it. I agree with you.
I just don't think that anybody can do a David Lynch thing without being completely pretentious about it. And he's the least pretentious person that I've ever seen talk about his work.
Was Eraserhead the style, the vibe of it? Was that something that was happening in independent
I don't
film
think so.
or
And if it was
student cinema kind of stuff?
If it was, we just never saw those people get their stuff into the film festivals.
Okay.
Because I'm sure somebody made something. Well, nobody ever made anything exactly like this.
No, yeah. It's just the same feel to it.
I think his influence came from German Impressionist stuff.
Maybe that's what
Paintings
I'm thinking of.
I think that's what it came from. And he was trying to find ways to to show what he was thinking in a way that was interesting to him. And he never cared what anybody thought about any of it. And like I said, his complaints watching him make stuff was always about how he didn't have the time or the money to do it as much as he wanted to.
For as long as it took.
He wanted to have enough. He wanted to have the time to sit on a stage that he built with actors and spend as much time as it took to figure out what the room was saying to him. It's pure artistry.
How was he to work with? Did people enjoy it?
They loved him. Everybody came coming back.
Except for Dennis Hopper. Not Dennis Hopper, fucking Anthony Hopkins. See,
Yes,
a lot of people hopping.
That's true. But I think that makes sense because Anthony Hopkins was a Shakespearean trained specific kind of actor. But Laura Dern, Kyle MacLachlan, Naomi Watts, they just kept coming back. Like I couldn't wait to get that phone call.
Okay.
Kyle MacLachlan said that, and he always tries to say it in a way where he's trying not to shit on everybody else. Where he's like, I'm not saying other sets aren't great. He's like, but he's going to give you all the time, just do whatever you want. We'll figure it out. I've told you before, I don't think he's that interested in what the actors are doing.
What do you mean?
To his work. Because that's how they're interpreting it. Like, he's like, this is my idea. Let me see your idea. And he's like, okay, looks great. And he's going for a feeling, not a
script, a story.
Not a story. So for an actor, that must be amazing because you can't do anything wrong.
Yeah, I guess. And I've now seen Dune and Eraserhead and Twin Peaks and part of
30 Seconds of Mulholland Drive.
Oh, 30 Seconds of Mulholland Drive. Can't forget that. And I will say that he has he's definitely got the feel. He's created yeah, all his movies are more feelings, and they do seem natural, and they do seem.
So this is why my opinion is that Fire Walk with Me is his best movie, even though most people would disagree with it. When I talk about how he captures feelings of his movies, now imagine the feeling is repetitive sexual abuse from
I
your
don't
own
want
house.
to.
But that's what I'm saying. I understand why people don't put it atop their list, but it is as harrowing as I've ever seen a movie be, without being graphic at all. But he gets it, and that's why he couldn't let that character go. That's why it becomes the key point of the return again. That's why he made the prequel in the first place. He wanted to give that character, let her walk around the world and exist, even though you know how it has to end. And it becomes a true tragedy because he puts so much effort into it.
All right. Well, what do you think about Eraserhead then? Where does this rank in your
I don't get it. I mean, I get it, but I don't connect to it
at all? Because it has all the like this is instant cult classic almost.
Sure.
It's made for that because it's just so.
My opinion on Eraserhead is that it's the weirdest movie I've ever seen that I don't think was trying to be weird. Does that make any sense when I say it like that?
Yeah, you know what? I have a feeling that sentence you can just stop saying it because it does make sense.
Yeah.
Everything he does makes sense, but it doesn't. But it does.
I don't think he set out to be like, what's the weirdest thing I can do today? I think that he's like, this is how I want to convey this, as if I was making a painting you were looking at.
Yeah, and those were all sperm.
They were all sperm.
Okay, good. All right, it worked then.
The only theme I can totally get out of the movie is it's about fatherhood.
I didn't even get that theme.
That's what
I see it now.
Yeah, that's the only theme I can really get out of it.
I thought he was poor and he jerked off in radiators. That was what I got out of it.
I think what's fascinating about the movie, because I have no opinion if I like it or not. It's just a thing I'm not going to watch again. I probably will one day.
Yeah, see, I would watch it again.
I say that I'll probably watch it one day
because it's just weird.
It's not the one I go to when I'm going to watch a David Lynch movie.
All right.
The thing I'll say I think I found so fascinating about it is how little emotion there is in any of it.
It's flat. Everything is flat.
Jack Nance is doing a great job in this movie because I don't know what the fuck he's thinking at any moment. He's not going to tell me, and he's not going to show me
his reactions and his.
See, that's why when you said he murdered his baby, I'm like, I don't think he has any. He doesn't seem to have any opinion on what's happening around him.
I think the lady
he's kind of confused by it. No, that's the one thing he likes that, and that's his happiness.
So. She was stepping on those sperm, and it looked like the baby. Yeah. So just like the son of Sam, like listening to his dog and says, "I want you to kill for me, kill." That's what the chipmunk cheek lady said, and he did.
I do know that the lady in the radiator came years after they started the movie. It was never in the script, never a part of it. But they had shots of him staring at the radiator and thought, "Oh, I have this idea. Let's put her in the radiator." That's what I mean. It's the least pretentious thing possible. It's like, I had a weird idea. Let's try it.
I feel like I've always found that seems to work the best. It's when things fit in, when you go in with just a script or an idea and you try to stick to it completely, it's never going to be good because you can't. You got to be willing to do what Lynch does and allow something to breathe.
When I said that, like, he was painting and he felt like he saw it moving and he wanted to make moving paintings. I think this is the closest anyone's ever gotten to making a moving painting because I can't tell you what exactly he was thinking when he made it, but it's all about how does it make you feel. And it's not to the point where it won't even project its own emotion on you.
He had an affair with his neighbor at one point.
Yes.
Right? Like
yes.
And then there was a husband involved. I forgot all about that because of the giant sperm baby. The sperm baby was there, right? In the room when he's banging her.
Sure.
And she didn't know it was there.
Again, would you imagine being Jennifer Lynch watching this movie? You're like, huh.
Well,
this is interesting.
What happened? She grew up to be the Elephant Man.
She grew up to marry the Elephant Man.
Oh, yeah, that's right. What else did he do? Are there any weird freak monsters and other ones that he's done?
Not like this.
Oh, okay. So everything else just becomes, Twin Peaks doesn't even have like monsters.
Really, with Blue Velvet, he starts being more interested in the juxtaposing what people think society's like versus the darkness underneath. I tried, when he died, I wrote something like this, like maybe on Twitter or whatever, that he saw darkness in everything and then found the beauty in that darkness. That's like what I think his movies are. Because they're all, in a weird way, this is the weirdest part. the most hopeful story I think he made, a hopeful ending he ever gave, except for like the straight story. Forget about that because I never saw it and it's not interesting to me. The most hopeful ending I think he ever had is in Fire Walk with Me, which doesn't make any sense. But the way I read the movie, which again, who fucking knows? The way I read the movie and the way I read The Return, Fire Walk with Me is the happy ending. The Return undoes the happy ending and plummets everything back into darkness. That's the way I read those works. That doesn't mean they're right. That doesn't mean it's right at all. But that's the way I've always read the ending of Fire Walk with Me.
All right, well, save it for that one because I got to watch it. I don't know what's happening. I'm still in Eraserhead land. That's where I live as my first experience, my first real experience with David Lynch, I guess.
There's a great video clip you can find on YouTube of people walking out of a screening of Eraserhead, and the cameraman and the interviewer trying to get their thoughts. And it's just like one-line thoughts, and a guy will just be like, "This is from the mind of a deranged person," and then just walk away. And the next guy could be like, "I love it. I've seen it 8 times." And it's like, it's real, authentic people, half of which
Reacting.
are like, "What the fuck am I doing?" And the other half going, "Well, I keep watching it, and I think I'm getting somewhere." And it's like, you're not getting anywhere. That's the point. David Lynch said to Roger Ebert on a red carpet about Mulholland Drive, because Roger Ebert never really liked his movies that much, but he loved Mulholland Drive. He thought that they didn't really work. His movies didn't work. I don't think he got. We've talked before. I don't think Ebert understood movies, to be honest with you, unless they were very cookie cutter. I don't think he understood them. He said, he's like, I love Mulholland Drive, and I'm gonna keep watching it until I get it. And he just looks at me and goes, "Roger, you get the movie," because he's like, it's not. Stop looking for meaning in the things. Like, did you like it? Did you feel something when you watch it? That's the movie. See you later. Like, there's no mystery to solve, which is funny because Mulholland Drive actually is a mystery, but there's no mystery to solve. So when I watch Eraserhead, I feel like I got a good grasp on the major theme of the movie, and I don't know that I need to keep watching it because I'm not as entertained by it as I am by other things. Because there's less here than I think there is in his later movies, which is part of why this movie works for what it is. But there's no character that you think about and you're like, oh, I wonder. Like, there just isn't. Because Henry, that's his name. Henry, it's like, he won't give you anything. Like, I follow what he does. He doesn't seem to have any emotion towards any of it, except the radiator. So, like, this is a very personal story to me of someone's remembering when they had their first kid and being, like, terrified of everything. And thinking that something's wrong with them, too.
Yep,
it's not just the baby, it's them, too.
That was in there.
And I get it. And I don't connect to it. That's why I was curious if you would more.
It's funny because I think I like this movie better than you,
Yeah, probably.
but I didn't make any of the connections you did. I sat there and I said, that would suck to be stuck with some weird giant sperm baby. Like, clearly this thing isn't right. Like, this is a horror movie to me. This is, hey, I'm a guy who's a lonely man who just wants to jerk off to my radiator.
That's the part I connected with.
I kind of got that too. The chipmunk lady is, I guess, kind of there. The chipettes were cute. And where was I going with that? I got distracted by the chipettes. The thought of a lady dancing in the radiator for me. Oh, but the fatherhood stuff, that's just a monster. I didn't equate it to me. I'm like, well, this sucks for you, guy. Like, what do you do with this giant sperm thing? And the lady who came from a weird family, your wife, they get married?
See, this is the point. You're right. I've made more connections than you. None of them have to be right.
No,
None
that's
of them.
it.
But when I see the form of the baby, I think he's showing it to be in his view. This, again, doesn't mean anything.
No.
But in my opinion, what he's saying is it's a foreign creature. I don't know what to do with it. I don't know how to connect to it. I don't know what to do with it. And that's what I think it represents, if that's right in that view. Right. But he doesn't have to mean any of that.
No, you can. No. Because I look at it as if one of my 2 kids came out looking like that, I might stab its lungs too.
Well, every time someone tried to get him to pin down on something, like there's a great moment with this interviewer where he's like talking about the theme of electricity in his work. It shows up over and over, especially in Twin Peaks and especially in The Return. This thing with electricity, and he's going on this slightly long-winded, like, I know you don't explain anything, but am I right in at least thinking like the simple thought? And he just looks, he goes, no, and that was all he gave him, because he's like, but also yes, that was also what he was saying was like, it's whatever the fuck you want it to be, man.
If that's what you thought, then it's correct.
Yeah.
So that's
exactly.
Lynch's thing. All right.
So I'm correct, but so are you. And so is anybody who watched it and got anything else out of it.
Because I fell into it very early, jumped into a cult classic kind of thing. And I wonder how much of that is influenced because I know all about Lynch. If I had watched this before, Lynch was a person and he had a whole style.
Like, I respect Eraserhead a lot. The reason I don't go back to it is because I enjoy when he takes these ideas, the idea of just like read into it what you want, see what you want, and he puts it into narratives that have, I think it works better when there's a real story playing out like a normal story. But he's going to play it out in a David Lynch way that I think combines better than just having it be what is basically a fever dream for 90 minutes, which is what this is. I like putting that dream on top of something where Blue Velvet's kind of a mystery too. So I'm following this character, investigating his little thing. So like I'm tethered to the world where when weird things happen, they work better for me.
Okay.
Like in that movie, Al from Quantum Leap sings a song, but he's just mouthing it. But there's like a whole sequence of him lip syncing a song, and it's weird. But it's weird in a world where I feel like I'm a part of. I can't feel like I'm a part of the black and white machinery world of, which I guess was a commentary on Philadelphia. It's one of the few things that he had to say that actually explains anything, because he grew up in Philadelphia and he thought at the time he was there, he thought it was the worst place in the world.
The
And
city of brotherly love?
parts of it I think still are. I love Philadelphia. Parts of it are great. Parts of it are kind of shitty. And this was his comment on the industry part of Philadelphia, which is why everything is so cold and metal. And I guess, but that's like as close as I've ever gotten to explaining anything.
See, I also kind of think
Which you might have noticed the entire conversation. I never brought that up because even though it's the one thing he said, I don't know how to connect with it.
it could also be because there were those sperms and eggs flying around at the beginning, and the whole world thing and the guy with the machines. This is the egg getting fertilized by the sperm, and he lives in that machine world. He's not just the guy pulling the levers. Henry lives within it, and somehow the deformed sperm is there, and he kills it, and that's why the egg blows up and the pregnancy doesn't work.
So you're saying this movie should have been called Machine Head,
I got one.
and that it's better than the rest.
3, 2, 1.
I don't know. I think you did like Eraserhead better than me. And I was probably more concerned that you would hate this and be like, we can't do this month.
Oh no,
They're not all like this.
Well, that's fine. This is just This is weird. That was a weird movie, but it's got that cult thing. And if you look at it like a monster, and again, you're right. You take away whatever you want.
Maybe it's because I've just heard him talk so much that I just think there's a humbleness to him that doesn't fit with what you think the person that made Eraserhead would be like. It's like how when Wes Craven made Hills Have Eyes and Last House on the Left and Nightmare on Elm Street, and you expect him to be, he must be like this creepy guy. And then he's like a professor type. And this is very much the Lynch thing. It's like, he's soft-spoken. He's not at all up his own ass, when it's weird because his movies are like the thing that people look at when they try to describe what weird art up its own ass is. And it's the least I've ever seen someone be about it.
You're right. Because now, circling back to your earlier statement, where you said a lot of the people who make this are pretentious.
Yes.
And I can see that. I feel like you're right. But I don't know if that's real or if that's just the cultural perception that's just been out there.
I think that the difference is when people try to make movies in the Lynchian style, they're almost always reverse engineering it because they have a concept of what that is.
That makes sense.
And he's invented it. He's figuring it out as he goes. But also, honestly, I don't think David Lynch knew what the movie was about.
Yeah, I believe that's probably true for
I think
most of his things.
They showed up on the set. He thought, this is what I'm feeling. Put it out there. And I don't think there's there's no point. Not no point, you know what I mean? It's not directing you purposely anywhere, because he's like, this is just what I felt that day. This is what felt like right to me, is that his baby's going to blow up huge and knock his head off, and they're going to cut it into a bunch of erasers. Because that's what he felt. That's what he wanted to say. Did you know that the man working the machines plays the cop father in Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure?
No.
Same guy.
See, now this makes me have to watch this stupid movie again, because I was looking at that weird guy, and I had to do my credit check, so I had to watch the ending again.
Yeah,
so I saw him pulling. The credit check's not much to say, but I watched him. And I was looking at him real good to see, like, what are you, a robot monster? Are you an ice monster? Like, what kind of thing are you? Because he had all these growths all over him. But at no point did I look at him and say, "Hey, that's that cop from Bill and Ted. That's his dad."
That was the cop from Bill and Ted.
The credit check. The only thing I guess, in true Lynchian fashion, it had almost nothing to report upon.
Yeah.
The only thing in there, which you've already answered, was in the special thanks, which go on for pages and pages. Sissy Spacek was there.
That's why. I always think it's hilarious, though, that her big breakout came in 76 in Carrie. And this movie was being filmed from like 72 to 77. So it starts off, she's nobody. It ends, she's one of the biggest stars. She's about to go do Coal Miner's Daughter and win an Oscar after this. Like, her career blossoms into a massive star over the course of her husband trying to shoot this fucking movie. And your Nick Cage update is that he was in Wild at Heart.
Oh, yeah,
with
but
David
there's
Lynch.
more.
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah.
But in blow your whole load. You got 5 of these.
You knew, though, right? You knew that he was in Wild and Heart.
I did
That's
know that.
good. I got it because
Jack Fisk was the husband of Sissy Spacek. Jack Fisk.
Oh, okay. All right. But anyway, in the movie Wild Heart, Cage
Wild at Heart.
Wild at Heart. What's Wild Heart?
So 2 words you put together that don't mean anything.
I think it might be a Care Bear.
I don't think
Or
so.
one of the Care Bear cousins.
Was he like the deranged one who would go on coke benders?
No, he was probably the kind of like the bad boy with a heart of gold. He's a Wild Heart. I feel like he was maybe a lion. I don't know. Anyway,
By a lion.
no. Anyway, God damn it! This isn't how these go. You're supposed to let me.
Oh, before you go on, because I don't want to forget one thing we should talk about with the movie. One of the most important parts to Lynch's films, and it's right on display in this right from the beginning, sound design. He does his own sound design. He cares very deeply about the sounds in the movies. And there's not a lot of dialogue in Eraserhead, but there's a lot of sounds.
Okay.
It's like its own soundtrack.
I'm curious going forward in future credit checks in this month of Lynch, how many times his name is going to appear in the credits, because you mentioning this, he is all over.
He did the
it.
music, he did the sound design, he did the editing, he did everything.
Right. Like he just everything. Very, very few titles on this movie don't have his name behind it, at least, with somebody else. Because
it's kind of insane when you consider how small a project it was that it became not just launch his career, but got him, again, a Eraserhead. Mel Brooks saw it and was like, we need to hire this man and keep him no matter what Anthony Hopkins says. And it came from just like, he didn't intend any of that. He's just like, he had to get a paper route, literally, in the middle of making the movie to go and get enough money to scrape together to try to shoot some more scenes. It was never supposed to be a second thing. This was just him trying to make, the moving painting. And then some people connected with it so much that they just never let him stop doing it. That's cool.
But they tried to, apparently, when he made Dune.
Yeah, but he made Dune is the best thing that ever happened to him, because Dune blew up his career as a studio man in 1984, and in 1986 he makes Blue Velvet, and then he never looks back. And then you get the most original works, because Eraserhead is a super original work, and Elephant Man's not, Dune's not, Blue Velvet is, Twin Peaks is, Lost Highway is, Wild at Heart is, Mulholland Drive is. Like, he never looked back.
Right.
So, give me your Nick Cage.
Well, I realized while you were there talking, and I was sitting there looking at my Nick Cage, we kind of ruined it, because at first it was cool, but now I understand all of it. So initially my news was that Nick Cage had a snakeskin jacket in that movie.
Yeah.
That he was like, it has to be in there, and he made it go, and he made Lynch put it in the script. But having talked with you, now I understand that's just Lynch's way. Of course he would. And for the same reason, Laura Dern broke her non-nudity rule, because she's like, it needs to be there. It'll enhance the movie, the character. So hubba hubba, like, that's in there too.
Here you go. She worked with him the most, maybe, of anybody. She was in Blue Velvet all the way through Twin Peaks: The Return.
Okay. So
I guess so was Kyle MacLachlan, but she worked with him. She was in Inland Empire. She was in everything. And Naomi Watts, he picked her up in Mulholland Drive, and anything he'd do would be like, come on.
he's who is it that does that now? Guy who made the movie about the atom bomb, and
Nolan.
Yeah, Nolan. He brings along the actors. They always go with him.
Kind of, yeah.
Like. Yeah, he's. I mean,
this next one he's got coming out doesn't seem to have any of those people, though.
What's
well,
his
Matt
name?
Damon's in it.
Matt.
He's going to play Odysseus.
Oh. Okay.
Matt Damon's going to play Odysseus, and it's got a huge cast of a lot of people, but I'm not sure how many of them. It doesn't seem like there's no Cillian Murphy, no.
No, it's not every movie, and it's not the same people, but it seems like the actors like going back to work with him.
Yeah, but he seems weird. There's no seats. There's nowhere to sit. You're not allowed to sit on set, and it's like, fuck off, man. You know how long it takes to light a set?
What?
Yeah.
I don't.
Like, if you're on set, there's no sitting.
This is a rule he has?
Listen, if you're a gaffer or something like that, maybe there is something for you to be doing. If you're fucking like Christian Bale, like, just let him sit down. Like, I'd be like, just give me a seat, man. I'm sitting here waiting for a take. What the fuck are you talking about?
All right, that is weird. That sounds pretentious.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I love Christopher Nolan movies. And I do think when you listen to him talk, he's not pretentious about it. But I see it in the work. And I'm not saying it's even a negative thing. I think that you have to have a real love of your craft and a respect for yourself to do it. I just think Lynch was more interested in, like, this is what I feel like today. Let's show a guy sweeping for 3.5 minutes.
I'm kind of like, after this, I'm really interested in watching more of these Lynch movies and seeing what all the hubbub is about. Not the hubba, but the hubbub.
I think you're gonna love Blue Velvet.
Okay.
And I think that Fire Walk with Me is gonna be a tough watch because
it sounds like
not
it.
not even because of that stuff, because it's just a movie that has massive highs and lows, and it's an odd one. It's like he tried to land a plane without like a steering wheel, trying to serve so many masters. In a way, it's almost Dune-like, except he had full control of it. So that's why I love it so much. I think where it's unwieldy and tries to do too much and leaves things that you want out, but for some reason it still works. And then Lost Highway is, I think, maybe this most interesting movie, but it's also the hardest one to penetrate. And I think you'll love Mulholland Drive.
Well, I love 30 Seconds. Yes, I can tell you right now, I'm probably in.
I think those are I think Blue Velvet and Mulholland Drive are the two that you'll like unquestionably love. And then I think you'll like Fire Walk with Me in the end. And I think you'll like Lost Highway a lot too. But it's one that's going to be more like, huh.
Yeah, well, the only thing I know about Lost Highway is I had the soundtrack.
Yeah.
And
Trent Reznor.
Bill Pullman turns into somebody else, or somebody else turns into Bill Pullman.
That's a recurring thing
in his movies.
Yes.
Where people
identity and
yeah, it's in Twin Peaks too, right?
It's all over Twin Peaks.
Yeah.
It's all over The Return. It's all over Fire Walk with Me. Well, not Fire Walk, but it's all over Lost Highway. It's all over Mulholland Drive.
Okay. All right, cool.
I think that they play no less than 4 sets of characters in that movie. It's very unique, and maybe the perfect culmination of everything he was working on since Eraserhead. But I think that's actually The Return, because, like I said, Return has things that call back. When I'm watching Eraserhead now, I'm like, there's some stuff in The Return when Dale Cooper's kind of in another realm that is very reminiscent of the way this movie looks and feels. And I was like, I think going through these Lynch movies, I know Mulholland Drive has a lot too from The Return. Fire Walk with Me, obviously. Blue Velvet, obviously. I think when we go through all these movies, I'm going to look back at The Return and go, this was the magnum opus. This was what everything led to. And maybe that's why I loved it so much without even being able to explain why I loved it so much.
Okay. How long are the rest of his movies? Does he get crazy with his length?
They're never like 3 hours long.
Okay.
I think he gets into the twos, like 2 hours stop.
Okay.
I think that Blue Velvet's 2 hours. I think Fire Walk with Me is like 2 hours, 15 minutes. I think that Lost Highway and Mulholland Drive are probably around the same. Mulholland Drive, which we'll get to obviously in the last one, was originally supposed to be a TV show.
All right.
And this is one of the reasons why being David Lynch is different than being other filmmakers, because he shot things for ABC and they were like, pass. And he said, okay. And then he's like dreaming up ways to turn it into something else, but it never was supposed to exist as a movie. So he had TV footage he'd shot, goes back, reworks things in his mind on the sets, brings everybody back. It turns into something completely different that only kind of works the way it does because it was never intended to be the thing that it is, and then somehow finds its way into being this thing that people think is a masterpiece, which I agree. So I don't think another filmmaker could do that, just reuse that footage and then figure out how to make it into something completely new.
Huh. Yeah, so I was thinking.
Yeah.
That wasn't really good Nick news.
Oh, no.
So
we got to save him. We got 4 more weeks of David Lynch, and there's only the one movie they did together.
Yeah, I don't need David Lynch. It's not fair. You're gonna like, no, you're gonna be bugging out all week, not knowing like good Lynch. Here we go. Okay. Yeah, this is a quick and easy one for you. So apparently, at one point in time, before it turned out they didn't have any rights or licenses in Japan, there was something called the Deluxe Umabao. Nope. I wrote it down phonetically and I can't pronounce it, Brian. It is Umaibo. Umaibo, a deluxe Umaibo Nicholas stick with Nicolas Cage's face all over it. You want a Nicholas stick? I know I do.
Well, I don't want to. Where is that?
In Japan.
Well, I don't want to give away everything. But I have mentioned before that there's a special treat coming up for a special boy this summer. And maybe you'll be able to find one of those.
Umaibos?
Maybe.
A Nicholas stick of my
We'll talk
very
about it
own?
later. We'll talk about it later.
Really? Oh, really?
I didn't say anything.
Motherfucker.
You're just reading into it what you want to, like a David Lynch movie.
All right. All right. But that was my Nick news to leave you with because,
Where do you think the strangest place Nick Cage ever masturbated into is? Because it's got to be wild.
holy shit. There's no wrong answers here, right?
No.
I mean, just like into a sock is probably the craziest because you wouldn't expect it out of him. Like, imagine if that was the answer.
We should ask him.
You know what? I think that's going to be my question if I ever have the opportunity to talk to Nicolas Cage.
That has to be. I regret not being able to ask David Lynch.
What's the weirdest place you go? Well, probably a goddamn radiator. Based on the films I've seen so far.
What if he just said it was like Lisa Marie Presley? She was crazy. All right. That's the second time I've disparaged her with a filthy thought.
Yeah.
And I have no idea why.
I was going to say, did she wrong you some way, or are you just extra horny for her?
No, I've never been her daughter, though, Riley Cohen.
Which one is she?
She's the one that's in, we talked about her on the It Follows episode. Maybe, I don't remember. She came up on something.
Oh, okay.
She lives in my radiator.
I know why she's got them chipmunk cheeks. She's not stepping on those sperm.
Oh. Just gotta let her out of there. Oh no, she's chained to my radiator. I always get that. I always get that wrong. All right, I'm going to jail. See you later. See you next week for Blue Velvet.
Yay!
I think you're gonna love it.